The United States military upholds a strict code of justice, where the death penalty is considered a rare and extreme measure. However, for a select few individuals, their crimes were so heinous that military courts found execution to be the only fitting punishment. These individuals were not outsiders. They were soldiers, officers, and leaders within the United States Armed Forces. Despite their positions, their actions have marked them as some of the most notorious convicts in military history. Here are their stories. 1. Hasan Akbar. He was born on April 21, 1971, in Los Angeles, California, converted to Islam as a young adult and took his new name before enlisting in the Army in 1998. By 2003, he was a sergeant in the 326th Engineer Battalion, Airborne Division, based at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. In March 2003, as his unit prepared for the Iraq War, they were stationed at Camp Pennsylvania in Kuwait. On March 23, 2003, at 1 a.m., Akbar executed a premeditated attack on his fellow soldiers. He stole 4 fragmentation grenades and an incendiary grenade from a supply tent, turned off the generator powering the camp's lights, and threw the grenades into 3 tents where officers and soldiers slept. As chaos erupted, he fired his M4 rifle at those fleeing, shouting threats. The assault killed 2 Air Force Major Gregory Stone, died from shrapnel wounds from a grenade, and 27-year-old Army Captain Christopher Seifert was shot in the back at close range. 14 others were injured primarily from shrapnel, in what became a rare case of fragging, an attack on one's own unit. Akbar's motives were rooted in extremist ideology and personal grievances. Later his diary revealed his intent. On February 4, 2003, he wrote, "I suppose they want to punk me or just humiliate me. Perhaps they feel that I will not do anything about that. They are right about that. I am not going to do anything about it as long as I stay here. But as soon as I am in Iraq, I am going to try and kill as many of them as possible." In another entry written before the attack, he wrote, "I may not have killed any Muslims, but being in the army is the same thing. I may have to make a choice very soon on who to kill." Military investigators confirmed he acted alone, driven by radical Islamic beliefs and resentment toward his unit, which he felt mistreated him due to his faith. Court-martialed at Fort Bragg in April 2005, Akbar was convicted of 2 counts of premeditated murder and 3 counts of attempted premeditated murder. On April 28, 2005, he was sentenced to death. The United States Army Court of Criminal Appeals upheld the verdict in 2012, and the United States Court of Appeals for the Armed Forces affirmed it in 2015. Currently he remains on death row, at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. Timothy Bailey Hennis, born February 28, 1958, in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, joined the Army in 1977. In 1985, he crossed paths with the Eastburn family. The Eastburn family was a distinguished military family residing in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Gary Eastburn served as a captain in the United States Air Force. He met Catherine Eastburn in the 1970s, and they tied the knot in 1975. Together, they welcomed 3 children, Kara, Aaron, and Jana, who were aged 5 years, 3 years, and 22 months respectively at the time of the tragic events. The Eastburn family was in the midst of preparations to relocate to England for a new opportunity with the Royal Air Force. As part of this transition, Katie made the responsible decision to find a new home for their beloved English setter, Dixie. She placed an advertisement in the local newspaper to facilitate the rehoming process. On May 7, 1985, 27-year-old Army Sergeant Timothy Hennis responded to the ad, visiting the Eastburn family's home. Hennis, who had a young family of his own and already owned a Spitz, connected well with Katie and left with Dixie. However, the situation took a tragic turn. On May 11th, Katie failed to answer her husband Gary's routine phone call. Concerned neighbor Bob Seafelt and a police officer visited the home on May 12th, where they discovered the horrific scene, the remains of Katie, her daughter Kara, and Aaron. Katie had been stripped to the waist, assaulted and stabbed 15 times. Semen was also found inside her body. Kara had been stabbed repeatedly in the chest, while Aaron had been bludgeoned in the chest and back. The youngest child, Jana, survived the attack, but was dehydrated and suffering. During their thorough search of the house, investigators uncovered crucial evidence, including fingerprints and hair. A luminol test conducted on the walls and master bathroom revealed that attempts had been made to clean the crime scene but not successfully. And missing items included Katie's ATM card, its PIN, and $60 in cash in her bank records showed $150 withdrawn from her account at 9 p.m. on May 10 via a nearby ATM. Initial evidence pointed to Hennis. On May 10, later identifying Hennis from a sketch and lineup. A woman reported a man matching his description discarding a bag near the ATM that night. Hennis was arrested on May 14, 1985, tried in civilian court in 1986, convicted of 3 murders, assault, and sentenced to death. In 2006, DNA testing on semen from Catherine's kit matched Hennis, and linking him definitively to the crime. On April 8, 2010, at Fort Bragg, he was convicted of 3 counts of premeditated murder, but as of April 2025 Hennis remains on death row at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. 3. Nidal Malik Hasan, he was born in September 8, 1970, in Arlington, Virginia, was an American-born citizen of Palestinian descent, joining the United States Army in 1995 and becoming a major in the Medical Corps as a psychiatrist. By November 2009, he was stationed at Fort Hood, Texas, scheduled to deploy to Afghanistan within weeks. On November 5, 2009, at Fort Hood, Texas, Nidalhasan, an Army major and psychiatrist, carried out a mass shooting at the Soldier Readiness Processing Center, where soldiers received medical screenings before deployment. Early in the afternoon, he rose from a chair, shouted, "Allahu Akbar," and opened fire with 2 laser-sighted pistols, firing 146 rounds over approximately 10 minutes, killing 13 and injuring 32. This attack was the deadliest mass shooting on an American military base, lasting approximately 10 minutes, with 146 spent shell casings found, underscoring the scale of violence. Hasan was described as socially isolated, stressed by his work with soldiers, and upset about their accounts of warfare. His motives appear rooted in his religious beliefs and radicalization. Before the shooting, the FBI investigated and found that Hasan's emails with Imam Anwar al-Awlaki, a Yemeni-American radical cleric, were related to his approved professional research. They determined he was not a threat, and his internet searches included Quran, fatwas, and suicide bombings, indicating ideological drive. Colleagues at Walter Reed noted anti-American comments, and he gave presentations defending suicide bombings, highlighting conflicts between military service and religion. His isolation and stress from soldier accounts of warfare likely exacerbated his actions. Hasan's court-martial began in August 2013 at Fort Hood, where he admitted crime and said, "We Mujahideen are trying to establish the perfect religion, while apologizing for mistakes." Convicted of 13 counts of premeditated murder and 32 counts of attempted murder, he was sentenced to death on August 28, 2013. As of now, he remains on military death row at Fort Leavenworth, with no execution since 1961, reflecting delays in military justice. 4. Ronaldardingray. He was born on August 14, 1965, in Cochran, Georgia, and raised in Liberty City, a public housing community in Miami, Florida. In 1984, at age 18, he enlisted in the United States Army and was assigned to the Target Acquisition Battery, 1st Battalion, 17th Field Artillery at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. By 1986, he held the rank of Specialist 4, E4, and worked as a cook. Stationed near Fayetteville, his life appeared disciplined, until his violent spree began. On April 27, 1986, Gray murdered 23-year-old Linda Jean Coates, a civilian and Campbell University student, in a brutal attack near Fayetteville. 7 months later, on December 11, he abducted, assaulted, and killed 18-year-old Tammy Kofer Wilson, another civilian in the area. For days after that, on December 15, he targeted Private Laura Lee Vickery Clay, an 18-year-old soldier stationed at Fort Bragg. Witnesses saw her at a local Kmart with a man that evening. The next morning, her car was found a block from her home, its interior suggesting it had been driven through the woods, with the driver's seat adjusted beyond her reach. On January 17, 1987, a soldier discovered her half-naked, decomposed body in a wooded area on base. She had been assaulted, sodomized, shot 5 times with a .22 caliber pistol, recovered 60 feet away, and beaten with blunt force trauma. On January 3, 1987, Gray entered the barracks room of 19-year-old Private Marianne Lang Namath at Fort Bragg, claiming he needed to leave a party notice. Once inside, he held a knife to her throat, demanded her military field gear, tied her hands, assaulted her, and stabbed her multiple times in the neck and side. Namath survived with a lacerated trachea and collapsed lung. 3 days later, on January 6, Gray struck again. He called a taxi to his address, requesting a pickup under the name Ron. The driver, 23-year-old Kimberly and Ruggles, arrived that evening. In the early hours of January 7, military police found her empty cab parked near woods on Fort Bragg. Her nude body was nearby, revealing she had been assaulted, sodomized, beaten, and stabbed 7 times. Evidence was overwhelming. A cloth belt gagging her mouth matched black karate pants seized from Gray. His fingerprints were on the taxi's interior door handle. Her fingerprints were on money in his possession, and his footprints marked the crime scene. Gray faced both civilian and military justice system. In 1988, North Carolina courts convicted him of the off-base murders of Coates, Wilson, and Ruggles, sentencing him to 8 life terms without parole. The military court-martial at Fort Bragg, addressing the on-base crimes against Vickery Clay and Namath, convicted him of 2 counts of murder, 1 attempted murder, and multiple assault, on July 28, 1988, sentencing him to death. As of April 3, 2025, Gray remains on military death row at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, after over 35 years, the longest-serving inmate of this group.